Have you ever really, truly looked at a bunch of grapes? I mean, looked past the fruit and just seeing the shape, the structure. There's something almost familiar about it, isn't there? Something deeply human. Well, it turns out that's not a coincidence. Today we're going to uncover this incredible connection between an ancient fruit and the very organs that give us life and breath, a connection that goes from its physical shape right down to its chemical power and even its spiritual meaning.
So let's start, not in the lab or with a microscope, but just with our own eyes. Because the first clue is right there in the open, an absolutely precise visual parallel between a grape cluster and the very architecture of our lungs.
Okay, just look at this. On the left, a grape cluster. You see that main stem? How it divides, then divides again, branching out into smaller and smaller stems until each one ends in a single grape? Now, look to the right. That's the bronchial tree inside our lungs. Our windpipe, the trachea, does the exact same thing. It branches into bronchi, which branch into tiny bronchioles, all ending in, you guessed it, clusters of little air sacs. The pattern isn't just similar, it's a blueprint.
But it gets even crazier because the parallel goes deeper, down to the micro level. Think about one single grape. It's this thin, protective skin, right? And inside, it's filled with fluid. Well, now look at a single one of those air sacs in our lungs, an alveolar sac. It's also a super thin, fluid-lined membrane. And that's the exact delicate spot where oxygen passes into our blood. It's the same design, just repeated on a smaller scale. So you see, this isn't just one lucky similarity. It's happening on two levels at the exact same time. The whole cluster mirrors the whole bronchial tree, and the single grape mirrors the single air sac. It's a perfect anatomical echo, a mirror hidden in plain sight.
All right, so the visual similarity is stunning, no doubt, but it's really just an invitation to dig deeper, because what science is now showing us is that the grape's function is just as perfectly targeted to our lungs as its form. The clinical proof is where this gets really good.
First up, we've got a powerhouse compound called resveratrol. It's a seriously potent anti-inflammatory. But here's the kicker. Notice where it's most concentrated? In the skin of red grapes. The very part of the fruit that serves as its thin protective barrier holds a compound designed to protect the thin, delicate barrier of our lungs. Coincidence? I don't think so.
So how does it pull this off? Well, you can think of inflammation in your lungs like a fire alarm that's just stuck blaring. It's chaos. Resveratrol comes in and doesn't just muffle the sound, it goes straight to the main control panel. It flips a master inflammatory switch, a molecule called NF-kB, to the off position. And by doing that, it doesn't just quiet one alarm, it shuts down the entire destructive cascade of inflammation, bringing a calm right where it's needed most. All right, so if resveratrol is the firefighter putting out the blaze, our next compounds are like a cellular security detail. They're called Proanthocyanidins, or OPCs for short. And these guys, found in the skin and seeds, are all about protection. They form a shield right at the cellular level. So what does this shield actually do? Well, it guards the incredibly delicate cells that line our lungs from all the stuff we breathe in every day. Pollution, germs, you name it. It's like putting up a barrier against rust or oxidative damage. And the clinical data backs this up. It shows that OPCs literally reduce the markers of stress in lung tissue and dial down the body's inflammatory signals.
And that brings us to our third hero compound, quercetin. Now this flavonoid is found all through the grape, and it has a very, very specific job. It goes after something called bronchial hyper-reactivity. That's just a scientific way of saying the twitchiness in our airways that is the #1 driver of asthma symptoms.
So how does quercetin bring the calm? Imagine you have these little immune cells that are way too jumpy. They overreact to everything and release a flood of chemicals that make your airways clamp down. Quercetin basically goes to these cells and says, hey, take a breath, chill out. It stops them from releasing so much histamine and other troublemakers. And the result? The airways are less reactive, they're calmer, which studies have shown can directly reduce the severity of asthma.
Okay, so we've got this amazing alignment of shape and science, form and function. It's pretty incredible. But does it matter how we consume the grape? You bet it does. Let's take a look at the grape's profile and see how different preparations can change the benefits we get.
This table really lays it all out. Sure, both red and white grapes are good for you. They've got vitamin C, K, potassium. But when it comes to lung health, it's not even a contest. The red grape is the undisputed champion. Why? Because that dark skin is packed with the highest concentrations of resveratrol and other polyphenols, giving it by far the most significant benefit for our lungs.
And it's not just the color, it's what you do with it. This is really fascinating. The process of fermentation that turns grapes into red wine can actually make these powerful compounds more available for our bodies to use. But if you dry them into raisins, some of those compounds start to break down. And if you press them into juice, you're usually throwing away the skin and seeds, which is exactly where the good stuff is. So yeah, how you eat it definitely matters.
So we've seen the grape's physical form mirror our breath. We've seen its chemistry heal our lungs. But the story isn't over. There is one final layer to peel back, and it might just be the most profound of all. Because when we turn to Scripture, the vine isn't just another plant. It's a central character in the entire biblical drama.
Just stop and think about this for a second. The flood is over. The world has been wiped clean, completely reset. And what is the very first agricultural act that the Bible records? Noah plants a vineyard. That's not an accident. That's setting the stage for something incredibly important.
And once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. It's an incredible story arc. It starts with Noah's new beginning. Then, in the book of Numbers, a giant cluster of grapes is the tangible proof of the abundance of the Promised Land. Later on, the prophets constantly use the vine as the main symbol for the nation of Israel. It all builds and builds to this stunning climax in the Gospel of John when Jesus says something radical about himself, before concluding with that final, sobering image in Revelation of the grapes of wrath.
The whole story of salvation, from the world remade to the world's final harvest, is literally woven through the branches of this one plant. It's a symbol of new life, of promise, of identity, and ultimately of our connection to God Himself. And this is where it all leads. Jesus doesn't just say the vine is like something. He says, I am the vine, and you are the branches. He's saying that real life, real breath, real fruitfulness, it all comes from being connected to Him. So we're left with this astonishing thought. What does it mean that the one fruit designed to physically mirror and chemically heal the organs of our breath is also the Bible's primary symbol for our spiritual connection to the source of all life?